Afternoon, everybody. Like she said, my name is Ray Spencer. I'm currently the lieutenant that oversees the vice and sex trafficking section for Metro Police. And just to give you a little bit of background, I've been in this current assignment since the beginning of the year, but prior to that, I oversaw what's called the Nevada Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and I oversaw Nevada's operations as part of a 61 coordinated task force effort across the country. And part of that is because with the internet, kids were being exploited all across the world, and criminals have no geographical bounds. We all know how easily it is to use the internet and communicate with anybody anywhere in the world. Prior to that, I spent combined 8 years as either a detective or a supervisor in the sexual assault section. And we saw a huge link between our cases when kids were getting sexually exploited in the internet. And that is how this class came about. Before we start, who here has heard of Amanda Todd? By a show of hands. This is Amanda. She's 14 years old, has her own YouTube channel, sings, does what other kids do on the internet, posts different videos. The next video that you watch is the same girl. It's Amanda Todd, but it is a much different video. She doesn't talk, she tells her story by index cards, so you're going to have to read it as it goes along. So I hate starting out the presentation on such a dark note, but shortly after Amanda produced this video, she ended up committing suicide. What was happening is she was communicating online with what she thought was a 14-year-old boy. That 14-year-old ended up being a grown man who lived in Ireland, and he was extorting kids all over the world except in Ireland, because when he was home during the day, kids in Ireland were in school, so he was using the internet to reach out and pose as a 14-year-old, and he would get a kid to send them an explicit photograph, and then once he had that photograph, he would extort them to continue to do more and more photographs. And it was extremely overwhelming. And she stated that Amanda had gone to internet safety presentations, kind of like you're sitting through today, and so had her mother. And we all think, oh, that won't happen to me, that'll happen to somebody else. I can tell you with just a couple small mistakes, it can happen to any of you or any of your kids very, very quickly. And that's the important thing that you have to realize when you're dealing with social media. It doesn't matter where I go, anywhere on the globe, and I talk to parents, we all have the same issues. as far as none of us grew up with the internet. We don't know how to police the internet. We want our kids to develop their own boundaries and give them, things to do. And you want them to also get better at computers and better at electronics, but you also need to keep them safe online, and that is where the struggle comes. So how does this work? Several months back, I was given a news interview in my office on this topic. So I had the cameraman and I had the news reporter in there, and I had her take a picture of me so I could demonstrate. So she takes a picture as I'm sitting there, and let's pretend I know nothing about exit data or metadata. We all know how to use Google, so I go to Google and I put in view exit data in photo, and I intentionally spell it wrong, but Google corrects it for me. And it pulls up, and it's hard to see, and I know you can't see in the back, it only pulls up a couple results for me to choose from. So it only pulled up 9,900,000. So one of the first ones I clicked on was Jeffrey's Exit Viewer, which is right here. And it brings me to this page, and it gives me a couple options. I can either upload a photograph, or I can put the address of a photo that I'm trying to get this information from. Well, since I had the photograph, I chose to upload it, so I clicked View Image from File, and then it brought me to this. And then it tells me a couple things about the photograph. It said it was taken with an Apple iPhone 5, it was a 4.1 megapixel camera, the flash did not fire, it was September 18th at 8:35 in the morning, and it gives me the latitude and longitude. It's been quite a few years since I've been in high school, so I don't remember nothing about latitude and longitude, but I don't need to. Okay, it gives me a map. This right here is Martin Luther King, this is Ulta. This here, these three buildings are Metro Police headquarters. My office is on the second floor, right near that green arrow. I got a great view of a dumpster, Walker Furniture, I-15. That's about right where I'm at. It's about 40 feet from where this green arrow is. If I were to take that picture at your house or at a Starbucks or at a school, someplace that's not a huge Class A office building, it would literally show the exact location down to the bedroom. So why is this important? Several years back, we had a 13-year-old girl here in this valley who sent a picture to a guy that she thought was a 14-year-old kid in California. That 14-year-old ended up being a grown man who was able to find her house from that photograph when a neighbor called in a suspicious car parked in front of her house. If you have an iPhone, you need to go to your settings, you need to go to privacy, you need to go to location services, and you want camera to read never. Settings, location services, privacy, and camera should read never. If you have an Android, you need to actually go into the camera app itself and look for the gray settings wheel, and you want to look for location tag and turn it off. So Facebook. I pick on Facebook a lot. It's the #1 social networking site out there, hands down. Has over 1 billion user accounts. Who here has a Facebook account? Can you raise your hand? Okay. So Facebook, kids between 13 and 17, though, are leaving Facebook in record numbers. Any idea why? Raise your, what's that? Yeah, raise your hands again if you have a Facebook account. That's why. Look around. Okay? It's not cool anymore. You can be whoever you want to be on social networking. We can all see that's my name. I think we can all figure out that's not me. I'm not a cashier at Chick-fil-A and I don't live in Chester, Maryland. What I do have is an undercover account that I use at work. And that undercover account says that I'm a high school age kid. I go to school here in the Las Vegas Valley. I gotta be real generic when I talk about it. But I have over 900 friends on that undercover account. Any idea how many times I've been denied a friend request?
Never.
It's never happened. What are you posting? Can you delete what you post? No. Okay, that's right, no. You can hit delete, but I promise you, you give me 20 minutes, I can pretty much recover every social networking post you've ever done. Rule of thumb, would you go up and introduce yourself by your screen name to your principal, coach, pastor, or grandmother? We see some of the most inappropriate screen names from 13-year-olds that will make you blush. The point is, if you're embarrassed to sit up here and tell somebody your screen name or email name, is that the screen name or email you should have? Are you inviting trouble? And I will tell you, since taking over the vice and sex trafficking section, that's something we see when pimps are looking to target victims that they're looking at is if you're 14 and you're putting sexy XXX 702 in your profile, that's something that's going to attract attention of someone who is going to traffic children. Providing the correct age. This is extremely important for juveniles because if you have a 15-year-old who puts that they're 17 or 16 in their profile and goes out and meets a 25-year-old and becomes the victim of a statutory sexual seduction, and now we go interview that guy and he tells us, well, I thought she was 16, we now have a criminal case that will go absolutely nowhere because of the age discrepancy on that page. Very, very important. Never telling people that you don't know your address or location. So who here has used the check-in feature on Facebook? And I know I'm not the only one, okay? So you check in on Facebook, you're so excited, you know, you've been saving up for the trip to Legoland, you take your kids to Legoland for spring break, you're in front of Snoopy and you take your selfie with the four of you and you post it on Instagram or Facebook. What did you just do?
You're not home.
You just told people that you're not home. And if you're in high school and you're sharing that information with your friends, that's a great opportunity so your friends can go shopping at your house while you're gone. It is a trend we are seeing now in high schools. How do you think this would go? We'll have to pretend here, but if I'm sitting in front of somebody's house, I'm just hanging out in front of their house all day, and I'm looking in, I see, and I knock on the door, and some guy answers the door, and I go, hey, I've been hanging out in front of your house, and I've been looking through your window, and I saw you have a 15-year-old daughter who's hanging out in her bedroom. I just want to come in, hang out with her, close the door, and hang out in the bedroom with her. How well would that conversation go? Not real well, right? Okay. So, what do we teach kids about stranger danger when they're in kindergarten? Don't talk to strangers. Don't get in the white van. Be careful when you're walking home or walking around, those type of things. Who has heard of Omegle? One? Okay. So if I were to ask high schoolers this same question, the difference, they all will raise their hand. So how does this work? I was having an undercover conversation on Omegle on my undercover account. So I log into so what you're going to see are screenshots from an undercover account. I log in, it's 8:51 in the morning. First thing I get, are you a guy or a girl? I said, girl, you? He says, look me up, and he gives me this. And I give him a question mark like I don't know what he's talking about, but I do. And I'll talk about that in a second. And I go, are you a male or female? He says, male. Where are you from? I said, Las Vegas. I go, you? India. Are you there in Kik? So what he was giving me is his Kik user account name on the previous slide. I go, India, wow, that's far. Yeah, I'm on Kik. He gives me a happy face, send me your ID. So he asks if I've had sex before any time. He asks I say, yeah, how was the experience? You can see, he asks another question I censored. I said, oh, I don't do that. Oh, okay, well, how was the experience? Hardly, and you can see that by your boyfriend. I say, I'm not really 20. He says, then? I said, 15. Okay. Well, everything else is true, I tell him. Well, share your experience, and we can have online sex. I said, online sex, how does that work? Well, if you're interested, we can start. Okay, are you alone in your room? I said, well, I'm in my bedroom by myself. My mom's making breakfast, so I may have to disconnect if she knocks on my door. Don't miss me, I'll be there in Kik. You have my Kik ID? Yeah, okay, my name is Hatch Wilfred, okay. Let's come to our privacy sex, close the door, sit on the bed. I said, okay, I did. Start grabbing your boobs. It's actually me. He asks if I'd be becoming horny. I tell him breakfast is ready. I got to go for now. There's only so much I'm doing for the sake of this presentation. Okay? So, I have had 200 conversations on Omegle. 198 of them are like this. This is a G-rated one that I can actually edit and use in a presentation. That is what we're talking about when you're dealing with the app Omegle. So when we talk about Kik, who has never heard of Kik? Okay, Kik is hands down the most popular text messaging app for kids. This video that you're going to watch was taken from the Today Show from about a year ago, last May, that it was taken from the Today Show. They'll tell you 40% of kids in the US are using it. I think it's higher than that. The amount of kids that are on the app is through the roof. For some reason, domestically, it's Kik. As soon as you leave the US, it's WhatsApp. Who's heard of Whisper? Okay, couple. So Whisper is an anonymous app. You can make comments and posts and communicate with people based on geographic location. So while the video was playing, I just pulled up Whisper, and I can just pull up some people. So somebody who is within a half a mile of where I'm standing just made a post. Well, that's the most money I've ever given a bum. The next post is someone within a quarter mile of where I'm standing. Hey, I'm just selling my vids. 20-year-old female. Hit me up on Kik for a sample. I miss making out with someone. Hit me up 1 mile away. You see what can happen with these apps? Because now I know the people who are posting them are communicating, and I can walk to where they're at. Just be aware of Whisper. Using it. Been a cop 19 years, the most scariest case I have ever had in my entire career, off of meetme.com. Used to be called myyearbook.com, now it's meetme. And especially when you're dealing with sex trafficking, for some reason pimps gravitate towards this website. Be concerned if your kids are on meetme.com. I realize every day I am not the perfect parent. I make mistakes, I'm not perfect. However, let's pretend you guys are not me. You guys are all the perfect parents. You do everything right. You've never made a mistake at parenting, you're perfect. So speaking of being perfect parents, where do you perfect parents charge your kids' electronic devices? Huh?
At home?
Where at home?
In my room.
In the parents' bedroom. Your kids need to charge their phones and devices in your bedroom, because that allows you as the parent, because you own the phone, you let them use the phone, and it lets you go through the phone to make sure you're familiar with every app and everything on the device. And if you're not familiar, become familiar very quickly. So since you guys are all the perfect parents, guess what? They developed an app for parents like you. And I don't want to get too complicated with photos, but every time you take a picture, there's a thing called a hash value. A hash value is basically the fingerprint of the photo. That algorithm of the hash value is 10 times more accurate than DNA. So if two hash values match, there is no question it's the same photo. So if you upload a photo to Google, it's going to search for hash values to see if there's any matches. And then they're now getting into photo DNA, which is different than hash values, but finding similar type photos. So the point is, you may have a photo in one location, someone takes that photo, uploads it, and finds other sites and photos associated with you just from one photo that was taken. IFTTT, if this, then that. You can create a free account at this website. It's called IFTTT, if this, then that. So it's called a recipe. So you could create a recipe called so this would be the recipe. If Ray posts anything on Instagram, email me the photo at this email. KidRex. Kids should not be using Google. Little kids should not. They should be using KidRex. It is owned by Google. It's identical to Google, except Google filters everything that they get, so they're not going to get anything inappropriate. It's called kidrex.org. That I like a little more now, because it's free. It's called Screen Time Labs. Okay? It has some great features besides being free. Lastly, we're always telling kids, don't do this, don't do that, but we don't really give them something that they can do. This is an app that was developed where if somebody asks your child for an inappropriate photograph, the child can send this instead. And it's designed to make humor out of an uncomfortable situation so that the kid doesn't send a picture that they are truly going to regret 30 seconds after it gets sent. Here's the resource page if you want to take a picture of it. If you go to Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, you click on resources. There are a ton of resources there. A phenomenal site for resources is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. If you click on resources on that website, you can download lesson plans, PowerPoints, based upon the age that you're trying to instruct to. So if you're instructing the middle school kids, you click on the middle school lesson plan. Elementary, same thing. Needhelpnow.ca is a website out of Canada. One of the great ones I talked about earlier, Safe, Smart, and Social. If you Google it, it'll bring you to his website. And then the other one is Internet Safety Concepts is another site that is out there.